Hey everyone, welcome to Make Your Peace, a 4YE podcast about Wynonna Earp. I'm Catherine Meushaw.
And I'm Lara Hayes.
And today we'll be discussing Season 2, Episode 11, Gone as a Girl Can Get. And as per usual, before we get into it, we wanted to say thank you once again for all of the feedback and for sharing last week's episode and everything, and all of your theories. We really appreciate it. So...
hang on one second. I just want to send a quick shout out. Guys, thank you so much for all the birthday wishes. You made me feel very special. I really appreciated it. I read every one. I tried to respond. If I missed you, I'm sorry, but thank you again.
We all hope you had a great one. Okay. So, quick recap of this episode. We got a taste of what Purgatory would be like if Wynonna had never existed, and Purgatory was pretty terrible. Alt Doc was the leader of the Revenants. Nedley and Gus were dead. Waverly wasn't really herself, and she was marrying Perry. Nicole was sheriff, but she had a useless deputy, and no Waverly. Dawes was kind of a dick. And Bobo teamed up with the Widows and broke the seal, causing Demon Clutie to wake up at the end of the episode. Also at the end of the episode, Wynonna reappeared because Waverly figured out how to break the trophy and the spell by blowing them all up. So this show has done quite a number of things to the LGBT characters, and, in a positive way. And this time we kind of blew up our gays.
And that is at least the third time a lesbian has cheated death on this show for everybody keeping track at home.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's about 3. Where else? Oh, so Wynonna appeared at the end of the episode after the spell was broken in time to see Bobo with the Widows, to see this seal had been broken, and to conveniently start having contractions right about when the Demon Clutie woke up.
Yeah.
So, this episode, was kind of, it's fun AU episode, and it was very similar to 2 Buffy episodes. And I think, Laura, that's probably where we want to start. Unless, did you want to talk about the title? It was pretty straightforward this week, though.
It was pretty straightforward. I loved it as somebody who really loved Gone Girl. I read the book years ago and saw the movie and loved them both. So, literal interpretation, like she's not there, she's gone, and then Gone as a Girl Can Get with reference to Gone Girl. I dug them both.
Excellent. All right. So like I said, this was pretty similar to 2 Buffy episodes, and I think it's best to just knock that part out right away because I know it'll come up a few times.
Sure.
So for those keeping track, this was similar to the Buffy Season 3 episode The Wish, mostly, and then it had some bits of Season 6's Tabula Rasa. So, you want to talk about the Buffy stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. As pertaining to The Wish, I actually had a note about Doc and Dolls, how hard it was, as hard as it was to watch them kind of shoot it out. I did love Doc's "I do hate it when we argue" line. That was pretty perfect.
Yes.
And somebody had to be the Cordelia sacrificial lamb. We could argue that the Iron Witch herself was the Cordelia of this episode in that her wish backfired on her. But I meant straight up in terms of death. So I guess we sort of had 2 Cordies in this episode paying the price for this wish. 3 if you count Dolls, who also died in the episode.
I totally have a note that says Doc is totally Cordelia.
See?
Because part of that was he was the only one of the gang to remember.
Yeah.
So it was his responsibility to let everybody know. So, yeah, I figured you'd have that same note, and I thought the same because I started matching up characters, and I was like, well, yeah, because Greta was totally had the wish gone bad, and Dolls you can kind of place in one of the white hats, like Larry or Oz.
Yeah.
Or so there were echoes of the different characters, and that was a lot of fun. And then we also had the Tabula Rasa-esque moment with Waverly and her "I think I'm gay," matching Willow's "I think I'm kind of gay."
I wanted that so badly. I know I called it out in the last episode and I said, like, can she say that? Like, can she just say those words?
Mm-hmm.
And she almost said them verbatim. And it meant so much to me. It lit up my heart.
I kind of wish she had said the kind of gay thing, just because pretty much until this point, I think we have mostly been considering Waverly bisexual. So it's kind of like the I think I'm gay line was kind of
Erasure.
almost. I mean, she wasn't, yeah. So, I mean, like, but that was, of course, after I thought about it, because, you know, you think about things a little bit too much after.
I would be down for, like, I would be down for checking in with Waverly, too, because I think that we, the viewers, have considered her bisexual, but I don't know that she's ever called herself that. And, you know, I mean, not all lesbians are gold stars. I'm not. I've dated men in the past, but I don't consider myself bisexual because I've had relationship with men.
Yeah.
So I think that would be really awesome, and it's something that we don't get to see a lot of on TV. If anybody would be down for it, I think Emily Andress would be down for it. So I hope that we could maybe visit that in the future.
Yeah, oh, totally. And I wasn't trying to say, like, I'm not discounting women who have dated men in the past and then realize that they're gay. I'm totally not discounting that. That wasn't, I hope it didn't come off like that. I don't think it did, but
I didn't take it that way, and I didn't mean to insinuate that you were.
No, you were fine.
I just read your recap before we started recording, and I saw that you called that out, and it just got me thinking about it. I didn't have anything written down on it, but I was like, oh yeah, we should talk about that. Because I really hadn't thought about it one way or the other until I read your recap of it.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you, like, end up rewatching and taking copious notes. Sometimes you, when you do it several times and you have a lot of time to think about it, you're like, oh, wait a minute. And I know you didn't get a chance to do multiple watches this time.
I am running on a single watch, you guys. A single watch, no sleep, and residual weirdness from the solar eclipse. So bear with me.
So it should be a fun one. That's what you're hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think it would be nice because we don't have a lot of characters. I understand how nice it is to have kind of a fluidity and sexuality, but coming back to, it'd be kind of nice to have Waverly define herself. And it'd be nice if she defined herself as bisexual, because we don't have a lot of characters who even do that. I mean, I'm pretty sure the first time we had a character call themselves bisexual was like Callie Torres in season 10 of Grey's?
Yeah,
so it was within the past 4 years.
Yeah, that's probably right. I would be down. Yeah, I don't care if she's bisexual or lesbian. Doesn't matter to me either way.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's kind of where my thinking was at. I'd like to see like kind of a random conversation, maybe. I don't know, but I don't know.
I would too. I think it would mean a lot. I think it would mean a lot to the view. I know it would mean a lot to me just to have that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, but I appreciated that nod to that episode of Buffy, even though it's kind of a rough episode of Buffy in some ways, but or at least how it ends. But we didn't get a parallel with that, so it's good.
I actually had a couple like other parallels. I don't know. Do you have more?
Probably, but go.
Okay. I thought this sort of like leading into it, this was just like one of my observations, but I thought it was a really nice touch having Waverly confront Bobo in that shirt covered with cranes or swans. And I think they looked like cranes to me, but maybe they were supposed to be swans. Either way,
I totally missed that. Yeah, I missed what she was wearing.
Yeah, the little blue shirt. I thought that was really, really neat. And Bobo in the cell was giving me serious Crazy Spike season 7 vibes, like recently sort of insane, what with, alive again, whereas, Spike was kind of driven insane by the fact that he had his soul again. But outside of of Buffy specifically, they were working with a couple other parallels. There was the scene with the widow with not Mercedes in her cell was very Exorcist heavy, everything from like the way that the cell echoed her voice to the spitting up and stuff like that, even like the creepy little song that she did and her maniacal laugh. Danny Kind has a crazy laugh, but that was sort of making me, think of The Exorcist. And then later in Nicole's office, there's that photo of Nedley on the wall, which looked a lot like Jack Torrance's photo at the end of The Shining. And then when Waverly first enters Bobo's cell, her first visit, there's this really ominous music playing in the background, and that also reminded me of music from The Shining. So I thought it was, in terms of like observable influences, I thought this was a really fun episode to kind of, pick parts out of. They gave you a lot.
And see, I haven't seen The Shining or Exorcist or anything, so I didn't pick up on that.
You haven't seen The Exorcist?
No.
Oh my God, it's so good. Okay.
No. But just a couple of things that you mentioned, not Mercedes and Danny Kind in this episode. I mean, it was so great, and just the creepy Christmassy the creepy Christmas song parody thing that she did, it was all so great. And this was on my list that I wanted to mention. So in the Whiskey and Donuts Hangout on Friday, Bridget actually mentioned that when she interviewed Danny Kind, Danny told her a story of they had given her a fake tooth to spit out during that scene.
Ugh.
And she actually, when she did it, it bounced off of the glass and hit her.
Aww.
So I kind of
suffering for her heart.
Yeah, I want to see the blooper for that. But yeah, so I appreciate that you had a list of parallels for that, because I haven't seen those movies, so I didn't pick up on it. And
I'm glad you called out the Christmas, the creepy Christmas song, because that was one of the best moments that I had written down. It was one of my favorites.
Yeah, I mean, it was so great, and she was just so delightfully nutty, and so was Bobo, and the widows and Bobo were really great. And you said something about the music too, and it occurred to me I don't think we've talked about the music in this episode, in the show yet. I think it bears mentioning that the music selection in this show is so good. And it was especially good in this episode, just from when Bobo and Waverly leaving the psychiatric hospital to, the song playing when Waverly pays Nicole a visit at the sheriff's station. Just all of the music cues and all the song choices are just really great.
Lost Girl was also really strong in terms of soundtrack. I'll still hunt down YouTube mixes, or I'll frequently hit up what is it? It's Songify or something. It's not Spotify. It's Song List or something.
TuneFind?
Yeah, exact. TuneFind. Thank you. God.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I will frequently just put Lost Girl in there and select tracks from that to listen to. I don't know if this is a Canada thing. I've got a lot of favorite Canadian bands, so I don't know if it's Canada or if it's just Emily being incredible and having an awesome team with both shows. I don't know, but yeah, it's easily got as strong a soundtrack as Lost Girl, and Lost Girl, song choice wise, is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, Lost Girl has some really great ones, and I'll do that too. I mean, any shipper and stuff like that will, go on and find the songs for certain scenes and stuff like that. So it's yeah, Lost Girl's got a few really good ones. So it's, I realize that I don't think we've talked about that, and, we really need to. So,
yeah, you're right. That was a good catch. That was a missed opportunity.
I actually didn't put it in my notes until my rewatch just now. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I wanted to talk about this. Because it was that scene in the sheriff's office that really, that whole scene, I'm going to start talking about Nicole. Big surprise. But that whole scene, just the way it was shot, I really, with the softer lighting and the just the cinematography and everything, the camera work, that scene in particular, and there was the scene with Greta, in Greta's house, where again they use like the lighting and the lenses and stuff. I thought were a really great choice. So those stuck out to me in the episode as well.
I have a note here written down, like, find a woman who looks at you the way Nicole looks at Waverly in this and every other reality. Like, the entire scene was amazing. When Nicole rushed to put her chapstick back on, when she was reapplying her chapstick, I was like, oh, like, it's love. Like, the lesbian is reaching for her chapstick. So I liked that too. Like, that was just like a really, I don't know who put that in, but like, good job, writer, or, like whatever person added that little touch. I thought it was amazing.
Well, I mean, she's so smitten. I mean, just that whole, like, just watching the time and just making sure she's ready for the second Waverly walks in. It's just, you gotta love it. And I did like, again, speaking of Way Hot and Nicole, I did like how, people have talked about, like, it's been mentioned a few times, and it's especially very clear in this episode, that while the most important relationship on the show is definitely Waverly and Wynonna, the fact that the most important or the primary romantic relationship is between Nicole and Waverly is really great. And especially after this episode, there was really the message that they were kind of, the soulmates or made for each other, however you want to say it. And I just gave myself Grey's Anatomy feels by saying they were made for each other, because apparently I still do that years later. But yeah, so I thought, even though it was kind of a weird episode because Wynonna was missing, it really, that part of it shined through. The fact that, the primary romantic relationship on this show is between Waverly and Nicole.
Yeah,
and that's pretty damn important.
It's extremely important. I agree with you. I was, especially, it says something that without Wynonna, the focus shifts to not only Waverly, but this relationship. Like, if Wynonna is not in the story, it becomes about these two people. And, it's incredibly rare and super important. I think, Dana Piccoli wrote, an article for Bella Books about this show and Orphan Black making a same-sex relationship between two women, the main romance of their show.
Yes, she did. And I know I retweeted it earlier. The Bella blog, Twitter, I think, has it, which is at Bella Books. Okay. Yeah, they tweeted it out there. So at Bella Books, if you want to take a look at it, because it's a good read, and it is, because it's something we don't get often. And so even though I'm still not gonna, I love Way Hot, I still don't necessarily believe that everything is all fixed and healed with them, and that they still have a lot of stuff to talk about. And I still wouldn't be mad about them breaking up for a little bit. I'm gonna lose as listeners every time I say that. But I do. This episode was really, like, nice as far as showcasing them.
Yeah, and I feel like it really, like you said, like, it really solidified, like, them as a couple, and that a lot of the romantic focus is on their relationship. But, going back to what you're saying, I do hope that, I think this was great, and I love that they work together so wonderfully, whether they, fully understand who they are to each other in an alternate reality or otherwise. But I really do want them to circle back around, and have a conversation, because I also think they have a lot to talk about. So hopefully we get that.
Especially since, so we know this spell was a weak glamour. And one of the things that came through was when Waverly was talking to Perry.
Yeah.
And gets angry at him for keeping something from her that was about her. So I think that's an indication that, there's still a lot to talk about between her and Nicole, because they haven't really talked. And I think it's a reminder that they're not healed yet.
And she was, Yeah, she was extremely far removed from that initial reaction that she had in Shorty's, and a similar situation invoked an extremely similar response. So I'm just backing you up. I agree with you. I think it's still bothering her, especially if it bothers her in an alternate reality with even less context. And she even asks herself aloud, like, where did that come from?
Yeah. And the only other time something like that really happened was when Doc dies, and she doesn't understand why she's so upset about it. So it's the deep emotional hits that have people kind of breaking through this glamour a little bit. So I think there's still a lot there, but I have a feeling because we've only got one more episode of the season, we're not going to see that conversation.
Yeah, I don't think we will either. I mean, hopefully, I don't think we have time for it necessarily in the finale, especially not with Wynonna going into labor and, Voldemort Clooney rising and all that stuff. So, we're short on time, but maybe next season or something it'll come up. I don't know. And we got an extremely important piece of information this episode. I was very excited about it. We finally got Waverly's birthday, and I want to start a Twitter campaign to celebrate the fictional birth of the world's cutest Virgo on September 8th this year. So save the date, ladies, and let's make sure baby girl's special day is never forgotten ever again.
You are such a nerd. I love that you had enough time to, in your rewatch and everything, to make sure that you, got had that note. So,
hey.
Yes, I agree. Let's celebrate Waverly's birthday because
is extremely important to me, okay? I happen to love astrology, and I really just wanted her birthday so that I knew her astrological sign. Okay, that's the God's honest truth.
Would you like to talk about what that means for her?
Oh, no. I need a little bit more time to think about that, but trust that we will revisit it in the future if people are interested. Also, I don't want to upset any Virgos. That's the tricky thing about talking about astrological signs. So I don't know, if people are into that, then, hit us up on Twitter or hit us up in our DMs. You can DM the Make Your Peace podcast, or you can DM me directly. And we'll see if people are feeling that, because if you guys want me to go off about astrology, I can do that. But I want to see a majority vote.
That could be a fun thing that we do during hiatus.
I'd be down for that.
It could be fun. So, yeah, guys, let us know. We have some interesting things planned or kind of in the works for the hiatus. And so let us know if that's a thing you'd like to see us talk about. Because really, this is as much for you guys as it is for us. So, yeah, let us know. Having Waverly's birthday was nice. And I, appreciate that we finally have that. And that somebody has finally indicated that they remember.
Yeah,
Waverly's birthday, considering the fact that Nicole is the first one to seem to know poor Waverly. And, that was another for Nicole, that I think that was the outside of her feelings for Waverly, that was one of the only things that shone through the glamour as well, is remembering Waverly's birthday.
Yeah.
So it was kind of interesting to see what got through and when. And I have to say, my notes for this episode are a little wonky because I kind of just have notes on each character and everything. So I'm kind of going to go to you as far as where did you what big thing did you kind of want to go to?
I had quite a few notes about Waverly this episode. I thought it was really interesting to see her without Wynonna. I was really torn by it too. Some of it, I think there were good and bad aspects, whereas Doc was pretty cut and dry, he was just terrible. But Waverly.
Dolls was too.
Yeah, Dolls too. Waverly wasn't marrying Champ, praise the Lord. That was a gift. But
sorry, not to like completely cut you off. I apologize. But as far as Waverly not marrying Champ, do you think that was just how they felt the AU should go, or do you think it was because the actor wasn't available?
hold on, I'm getting to that. So
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to jump ahead.
I am going to call that out because I thought that was really interesting too. I mean, logically, maybe the actor just wasn't available, but I like kind of what it says story-wise for Waverly, so that's what I'm going to touch on. But, you know, we see her, she's with Perry, she's trying to live a real life. She's clearly not in love with him, but she's in love with the idea of getting out of purgatory. It was a little devastating to imagine her traveling and getting to attend like real lectures. And as far as the not Champ thing, like Perry may not have had Waverly's heart at all, but he seemed decent. And without Wynonna, I felt like she had no need for Champ, the local like high school stud. I felt like she didn't need those points earned. So she didn't need to endear herself to him or any other like jock whose father holds an impressive position in the town, because she had less to overcome in terms of winning hearts in purgatory without Wynonna there. In some ways, this life was easier on Waverly, albeit less fulfilling.
And you definitely, I would agree with that. She had, especially since she ditched the Earp name the second she lost her father and Willa.
Yeah.
And went to live with Gus. And I think the differences between AU Waverly and actual Waverly were very interesting. Because, you know, it was without Wynonna, she doesn't have that weird pride in her name. You know, that how important it is to her that she's an Earp. You know, she rejects that name. She rejects that legacy. She rejects everything about being an Earp. So I thought that was interesting. And I mean, I like what you said about Champ too, because I like thinking about it like that instead of just saying the actor wasn't available, because Perry was good for her, or to her, not necessarily good for her. We don't know. But he was all set to take her out and travel, and you know, wanted to make sure that she had the closure that she needed, and we knew she wasn't ever going to get that with Champ. So I'm not mad about it.
She also seemed angrier in this reality. She mocked the Earp curse. Her disdain for purgatory was no secret. She actually goes off on her, you know, vanished mother a little bit. There was anger about being abandoned, even though ultimately, you know, she said she understood and she blamed it on the town. And all of this makes sense for Waverly. She didn't, or for this Waverly, because she didn't have to learn to smother her emotions with these easy smiles. And I kind of hope, if, you know, people seem to have retained their memories, I hope this lesson carries over for her. I hope that, you know, she can, because I think that's real, and I think it's all in there, and I think she's got all of those messy emotions, and I think she actively pushes them down and pushes them aside to be more agreeable. So I hope that getting in touch with this other version of herself, that some of the honesty sort of sticks with her, because it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm so glad you mentioned some of that. And I'm very glad it seems to be that we're on the same page with a lot of this stuff and have a lot of overlapping notes, although it's making me like jump up and down in my chair. I'm like, oh my God, I have a thing. So two things. One, about Waverly's mom. She does seem to have a really interesting connection with her mother in this, because she throws on the wedding dress after, you know, she's like, I understand why you left and stuff like that. But she seems to have a really interesting relationship with her mother in this. Emotionally, I mean, her mom still left. So I thought that was interesting. And then you mentioned she seemed angrier. She's not the only one. That's a note I had for every character except Jeremy, but for Doc, Dolls, and Nicole and Waverly, they seem angrier without Wynonna, which was an interesting note for me to put down for Nicole, and I'll get to Nicole later. But it's interesting to explore what this world is without Wynonna, because I think you wouldn't expect these characters are angrier people, especially Waverly, considering what quote unquote Wynonna has done to her, with like the whole air thing that we talked about in season 1. So I thought that was, I'm glad you mentioned the Waverly and gave you jumping point. But yeah, it's all of the characters were like, Dolls was not just angrier, he was colder and more reckless without Wynonna. So it's interesting because you wouldn't think of a character like Wynonna kind of brings that compassion, I think, and out in everybody.
Yeah. You also brought up a really good point about, or just something that I kind of want to underscore about what you said about Waverly seems to have a different dynamic with her mother in this alternate reality, which again makes sense considering that in the AU, her mother is still gone, but her mother is alive. She doesn't know Wynonna. She doesn't think Wynonna exists. Willa's dead. Her father is dead. Gus is dead. So her mother, wherever she may be, is literally the last, family tie that version of Waverly has left.
Mm-hmm. And even though she still has that kind of underscore of abandonment, it's different. Like, because, part of her anger at Wynonna when Wynonna came back was being abandoned.
Absolutely.
And so I thought that highlighted something interesting. And I kind of hope we get a little bit more. Because, like I said, though, she spent half of the episode in her mother's wedding dress.
Yeah.
So that's pretty significant. We've been neglecting to talk about this, actually, on the podcast. I think we've had conversations. There was a lot. Well, okay, it was all Bobo calling Waverly his angel and my angel and all this. And we haven't talked about it yet. But there's been that theory floating around that Waverly is not a revenant or half revenant, but she's actually an angel. I don't think we've talked about it. See, I said that very quickly, but I don't think we've talked about it on the podcast. We've talked about it outside of the podcast.
I can't remember. I know we've talked about it, but I don't think we were recording.
I don't think we were either. Either way, so I feel like that was worth mentioning this time around, since she even tried asking him about it, and he was just kind of like brushed her off. So we've had a lot of references to Waverly, a lot of Waverly being called an angel, and so that could either be just kind of a red herring at this point with, we solved it, or the solve can be the red herring. So, and she's still never been out of purgatory. So
yeah, she hasn't. When we first caught up with Bobo again in the institution, and he was, he said they knew no one harms the baby, my law, all that stuff. I felt like I wondered aloud, I they trying to lead us back towards the Bobo parentage theory? Because I abandoned that a little while ago, but I became pretty convinced that was not the case during Wynonna's wonky time walk to the past thing. But now I'm certain that he knows who Waverly's parents are. When Waverly comes to break him out of the asylum, he asks her where Peacemaker is, and he tells her that she's too young to wield it, not that she can't, just that she's too young and that her lineage isn't pure. So I'm wondering, and this was one of the questions I told you I had for you, I'm wondering at this point, can we confirm that Ward was Waverly's father? Or, Waverly has to at least hail from his side of the family, but I would think that Ward would have to be her father if there's any chance at all that Waverly could one day wield Peacemaker, which is the direction Bobo pointed us in.
Unless there's another random Earp somewhere that we don't know about.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe Ward had a brother or something. I don't know. That could be.
It seems highly unlikely, but I have seen some. I was trying to avoid seeing stuff on, I was trying to avoid theories and stuff on Twitter until we recorded, because I don't like kind of delving in too much, because I like to get my own thoughts out. I did also see some speculation that Waverly is somehow, the time jumping and all that nonsense means that Waverly is Wynonna's baby.
What?
I know. I saw that theory. I'm not on board with that at all. But I wanted to throw that out there
Yeah,
just as a,
kind of a Melody Pond River Song
um,
kind of a thing. Whoa.
yeah. With all the time jumping and everything. I'm not sure how that would work.
I
And that'd
don't,
be
yeah, I'm not,
a little jumping the sharky to me, and I think it would really take away from the relationship that Waverly and Wynonna have, to be honest.
yeah,
Um,
I think I would be a little upset maybe. I don't know, something like that. It's so lofty that it totally, like, it would be make or break, like, do they stick the dismount? You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like I can really
yeah.
weigh in on that unless we were to actually watch it play out.
Yeah, I mean, I just, like I said, I've seen that there, and I just had to mention it because, like, but yeah, I think unless there's a random Earp that we don't know about, maybe there's another random line. Maybe that's where the lineage isn't pure thing comes from. Maybe there's another. Maybe Wyatt had a brother. Maybe one of Wyatt's, because historically Wyatt Earp didn't actually have kids.
Yeah.
So they're already taking liberties. We don't know. We don't know about the Earp line. So it's possible that that's something too. I think knowing that Waverly can wield Peacemaker, though, it is a safe bet that she's Ward's daughter. At this point, based on what we know for sure, I think that's a safe bet.
I think so too. I think, well, at least that's what I'm leaning towards right now based on what Bobo gave us. As far as, is she a Revenant? Is she not a Revenant? Man, I don't know. Cause at this point, the only lady Revenant we know about is Rosita, and that would be weird. So like,
That was another, I think I saw that theory floating about, man, fandom, you gotta stop. Cause that would be a little not okay.
nobody knew, right? But like, yeah. So that would be weird though. That would be a little worse than Luke and Leia, but like, yeah, yeah. So at this point, I'm like, I had a million ideas about Waverly's parentage, but it seems like every week I'm like, okay, just tell me. So I'm wrong. So just give me the answer.
Yeah, and I also, in regards to the Rosita thing, I have to imagine that if Rosita felt her life was in danger, because she's a Revenant and Wynonna's the heir and has to take her out, Rosita would say, "Oh, by the way," like she would have that level of self-preservation.
If she knows who Waverly is, I don't know.
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm trying not to entertain that one as a possibility, same as I'm trying not to entertain the Wynonna's baby thing as a possibility. The more and more I think about it, I do find it interesting that Wynonna started having contractions the second the demon woke up and started, like, roaring and stuff.
Yeah.
That can't all just be convenient, dramatic timing. So I think there's something maybe there to explore as well. Maybe there's a connection with Clutie, the demon, and the baby.
Yeah, I mean, especially if the baby isn't Doc's and it is part Revenant, maybe Clutie rising triggered her labor somehow. Yeah, I could go with that.
There's a lot to ponder. Just like, even though this was an AU, and I know we were both kind of wondering how this was going to work because it was the penultimate episode. And I think, it's still kind of, there were some character things and some important tidbits to kind of pull out of it.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a lot to unpack with little things.
And
it's a lot of little
It
things.
is a lot. I'm really excited, like, to finally get a real look at, Demon Clutie and meet the man, the myth, the legend, all that stuff. I'm wondering what effect, if any, his death will have on the Revenants. I assume that, should Wynonna put him down, she'll still have to hunt the Revenants down one by one, because otherwise, like that, I mean, that's the show. So, yeah, so yeah, I mean, I know that she hunts a lot of other demons too, but I think it would be, I don't know, I suppose that's just a personal preference thing, that she would still have to go through and clean up the revenants, whether or not she put Clutie in the ground.
Well, we talked about this before, and I don't remember the context at this point, but the demon Clutie is the one who casts the curse.
Yeah.
Generally, when you have magic in any sort of TV show or whatever, spells and curses frequently end. Well, no, spells end, curses don't necessarily end with the death of the caster. But it may have a very interesting effect on the revenants, we don't know. And I mean, we've gotten hints that all of this is a lot bigger than just, the revenants. Purgatory is a sanctuary and a prison,
I feel like the revenants are her vampires. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Buffy is whether she was fighting, gods or, or what have you. She still had vampires every single week that she had to slay. You know what I mean? So I suppose I would miss the continuity a little bit. So I'm hoping that the difference here, like you said, is that we're talking about a curse and not a spell, and that I just personally I hope the revenants kind of stick around.
Definitely, especially because at this point we've got Rosita to think about. It's not just a bunch of we have Rosita, and I like her, and I'd like to see more of her.
So
I don't think we've gotten enough of her. Even in I thought she was very interesting in the AU, speaking of Rosita, because she was a Black Badge agent.
Yeah.
So, I was kind of curious about that. I was also curious about, with Rosita, when they went and saw Greta mentions that, when Waverly mentions Wynonna's name, and Greta's like, do you remember? And Waverly explains that people have been saying her name to her all day, and Greta clarifies, people touched by the demonic. So, does that mean that the revenants are immune? That means Rosita should have known.
Yeah, that was another thing that I had written down to talk to you about, because while I was watching the episode, because I knew I only had one watch, I was taking pretty obsessive notes about the curse itself so that I didn't forget any of the spell based upon the trophy, so that I didn't forget anything. And I was excited because I thought my first guess was that Doc was immune to the full effects because he touched the talisman, the trophy in this case. And I was,
which is true.
And I thought that was really cool. The Iron Witch called it out, and I was like, oh, nice. But then she said that thing about, people touched by the demonic are not affected by the curse. And I was like, oh, well, that totally explains the widows, and that explains Bobo. And then I got hung up on Rosita too. So I don't know if we I even took it as far as I was projecting it onto Waverly, because we are running with this, she's half revenant theory. And I was like, well, maybe that's why she seems to be getting more fragments than other people, but she's still affected by it. So what does this mean? Ultimately, twice in the episode, they say that it's a weak glamour, or that that the spell has holes in it and stuff like that. So I just kind of abandoned that train of thought. I was like, I'm losing the story. I'm paying too much attention to this. I'm trying to read too much into it. So I think Rosita being looped into the forgetful camp was kind of, I think it was just a whoopsie. You know what I mean? And ultimately I just had to hit the brakes on analyzing the curse any further than that.
Yeah, I mean, okay, cool, but then you also have the revenants to think about too, the other revenants. Bobo and the widows are the only demons that we saw that remembered who Wynonna was. I mean, you'd think the revenants would have said something. They would have. And I think also the stuff that peeked through with Waverly, and I know I mentioned it earlier, was because of her emotional connection to Wynonna.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that Greta and possibly the demon who cast the glamour underestimated. I think they underestimated Waverly's love for Wynonna, and honestly the whole group's. I think they underestimated that, and that's part of what made it such a weak glamour. Especially because of how much that town has been touched by her. So it had to be a very, it it was the whole town. It wasn't just a few people that were affected. So I think there was a lot to it. I got kind of stuck by that, and I'm still like stuck by it because it just kind of, I think we just have to let it go as like a weird plot hole, but
I think so too. But you do make a good point about Wynonna being the reason, or possibly being the reason, that this curse was, or this spell was so weak, because she was so ingrained in these people's lives and she had such a profound impact. So I didn't have anything like that written down as far, like I said, when I started to frustrate myself by trying to break this spell down, I was like, oh, forget it. But I really like what you just said there about that.
Thank you. Well, and that was kind of something that Doc echoed with his, my God, this is what we are without her.
Yeah.
And then when Dolls is like, who? And she's like, who is she? She's everything. So I don't know. One of the things, and I know I'm repetitive, I just really loved how they showed how much she was necessary. And I hope for her sake that they remember and can tell her that. Because I think that'd be important for Wynonna to hear.
I do too. And just a super sweet moment.
Oh yeah. So what other kind of big things did you have?
Well, I need to just get something out and get it out of the way. I'm excited that Bobo is back. Like, I don't know if that's going to be the popular opinion. I know that his whole thing with Willa was really weird, but I think he's got awesome hair, and I love his love of fur coats. And I feel like he really frustrated me, like, in the first season, but it was like an enjoyable, like, he's really good at being Bobo, you know, like, I mean, you've gotta give the devil his due. When Wynonna had her little, like, time walk to the past thing, and we got all of this backstory on Bobo, I was really worried that we were going to, like, fast track a redemption arc for him. And I think that would be a little unfortunate because I really do enjoy him as a villain. So we come back this episode and he's a little crazy, but he was still pretty soft as far as Waverly was concerned, you know, calling her my angel and obviously helping her out and stuff. So I had a little bit of concern there, but they did, you know, explain that with the time walk that Wynonna took. So I understand why he would be endeared to Waverly. Wynonna purposefully endeared him to her. But I was very excited that, you know, we see him, you know, he's still looking out for number one. He's still bargaining. He's still protecting his own interests. He's, you know, making deals with the widows. And, you know, he smashes the third seal. And while I think a redemption arc is still very much a possibility for Bobo, because he's a villain who was a big bad who was brought back, again, the Spike parallels with his character are pretty significant. So I do still think that it's likely that we'll get a redemption arc for him. I'm just glad that we're not rushing into that. I like seeing him up to his old tricks, and, you know, one piece of his backstory isn't really enough for me to like him as more than a villain. So I'm glad that we're pacing him out, and I think it'll be all the more rewarding later on, you know, should he get a redemption arc.
I agree with you. And I think one of the nice things we've seen in this episode with Bobo, because we didn't have to worry about AU Bobo, we just got Bobo, it really kind of showcased the change when you return from hell. I guess it was another, because he was really conflicted and dealing with that, you know, about that kind of perceived duty to Waverly.
Yeah. And
how that conflicted to his demon side. So yeah, I like him. He's a fun villain. You're not alone in that. I like him. I was kind of excited to have him back. I think that even though he sided with the widows, I think we're still going to see more of that conflict because he still has that duty to Waverly.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that.
So I think it'll be good. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm
kind of, that's because Bobo is fun. He had that creepy thing with Willa, but he's still fun.
Yeah.
And I actually had you kind of touched on a lot of, like I said, we're kind of on the same page. But I had a random note. You know, I guess it didn't occur to me until now that Bobo's telekinesis was metal-based. He's a little Magneto-esque. You know, X-Men, Magneto.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. It was funny, but I was thinking very seriously about what you're saying.
Because it's like it didn't really hit me until when Waverly goes to see him. She mentions that, or the nurse asks if she took all like removed all the metal things, and I was like, oh, I just completely didn't register that it was metal based.
I didn't either until you said it just now, and I'm wondering if we'll ever find out more than that. It goes back to Constance Clutie's making Constance making the 3 seals and saying that they had to be metal. So I wonder what the significance of metal is for revenants.
Yeah, because especially like with the plate.
Yeah.
Wynonna wakes up saying something about it being iron, doesn't she?
Yeah, I think so.
For some reason, I didn't have that in my recap notes. So I'm basing that off of the 3 watches I did.
Yeah.
But I remember her saying something like waking up talking about the plate being iron. So there's just metal in general with magic it is considered one of the elements in some regards, like kind of. So, and you have to think about kind of like if you think about it like with electricity.
Yeah.
You know, like some metals
Yeah,
work differently. You can kind of argue it's the same with magic.
As a control. Sure.
Especially, I mean, and there's also in fairy lore, which I'm going like way out, and I apologize for this ramble that I didn't mean to go on. But in fairy lore, iron is like basically fae folk are allergic almost. It will kill them. Iron can kill them, and they can't touch iron and stuff like that. So metal is a lot of times very important with lore and magic and everything. That was as I go on a 10-minute rant.
Hey, no,
Sorry.
never, ever apologize for going on a mythology rant with me, ever. That was really cool. I have to say that I remember when he held his hand out and he took the ring from her, I thought it was funny that his telekinesis was so strong, and I had forgotten that he could do things like that until I saw him do it again. But I did not make the metal connection. That's really, really interesting.
Maybe that'll come into play again.
Yeah, maybe.
Or it's just a random fun thing about Bobo. he's Magneto. So yeah, I think that was my last Bobo note because you kind of covered my other stuff very well.
Cool.
So, yay teamwork.
Woo!
Let's see. Did you have any other like big things or?
Not so much. I appreciated. Well, no, we kind of already talked about that. I wasn't expecting Doc to take up Bobo's mantle in Wynonna's absence. I know that he wasn't a stellar human before he met her or anything, before we met him for that matter. It's just not the way that I thought the story would go at all, or how the story would start. So, you know, just for what it's worth, it was a really nice surprise for me. I loved the whole holiday house thing, and more German for us in this episode. But I just thought that was really cool. I don't know whether or not you expected it, but I fully expected to spend some serious time getting him out of the well, not for him to have a lackey standing there waiting to help him out.
Oh, I'm with you. I wasn't expecting him to be this drug dealing gangster, basically,
Right.
or somebody who blew up. I mean, we're assuming he with all the explosives, we're assuming he blew up the power plant at the lumberyard or whatever happened with those things in Nedley's house. Because, I wasn't expecting any of that, and I was also expecting to spend quality time in the well with him because Wynonna is how he got out of the well the first time. I also think it's interesting because, and I know flimsy spell, flimsy glamour, somewhat of a flimsy thing in some ways. Where was Bobo in this instance? why wasn't he around? Was it because he was taken by Black Badge? But he was taken by Black Badge at the end of season 1 as a result of Wynonna. It wasn't necessarily... See, this is where it gets a little confusing. Like, why was he still taken anyway? Did they somehow find... But it's like the events that led to Bobo being taken weren't really there anymore. So, like, where was he? Was he dead? Was he taken? Or was it just part of the flimsy glamour because the universe knew he was dead? They needed a reason for the gang to follow Doc.
I think, I imagined that, especially based on the brawl that the Revenants have in the last part of the episode, where they're like you said in your recap, like Team Doc or Team Bobo or whatever, I imagined that things came to a head between Doc and Bobo in this alternate reality, and that there was a power struggle, and that ultimately Bobo lost. How he lost his mind or how he ended up in that hospital, I can't say, I can't speculate. We really don't have enough information for that. It could have been something to do with the drugs that they were brewing. I mean, who knows, right? I don't think that Black Badge had a hand in it, only because if they did, he would have been in Black Badge custody. They wouldn't have given him up.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, that was kind of a weird, glaring thing. I mean, but I did kind of, it was interesting, and like I said, it was, the point was that everybody's kind of lost without Wynonna, and that kind of, nothing showed that better than Doc teaming up with the Revenants. Yeah. And, killing Nedley and scarring dolls. And even capturing Rosita. I mean, he had her shackled in the barn making drugs for him for, she said, like 6 months.
Yeah.
So there were some questions, as per usual. And it was, I don't know, like, that's the problem with episodes like this, though, because you end up like, well, what about this and this and this and this? Because they build this story for one episode.
Right.
And you have questions on top of questions. Like Maddie being killed by the Jack of Knives.
Yeah.
Why?
That didn't sit right with me either.
She didn't seem to fit his MO.
No.
And she would have been able to protect herself.
Maybe, Maddie kind of had a more, I want to say, like a more altruistic streak than her sister.
She definitely.
She ended up helping out in the first season against Constance, and that's ultimately how she died. So chances are, I suppose if we want to kind of delve into that, in my mind, I imagine that she was kind of doing her part against the Revenants to try to hold Purgatory together, and that she just kind of crossed the Ripper's path, or Jack of Knives, sorry, but yeah, that's got in his way somehow, or tried to spare someone, or something like that, and he caught her and he killed her.
Yeah, I like that. See, thank you. That makes me feel a little bit better. I like thinking about it. See, it's like, I just want somebody to answer my questions.
I will give you as much conjecture as I possibly can.
Yes. And like I said, I have a whole bunch of random character notes, so bear with me for jumping around.
Okay.
One of the other things about AU Waverly, and I know we talked about her a little bit already, she spent a lot of time shrieking in Crisis instead of actually doing anything. I thought that was interesting, because not only did a lot of characters seem to be angrier without Wynonna, she seemed to lack a confidence. And in a way, Nicole was missing some confidence as well, in a completely different way, but I thought that was interesting.
In a completely different way, but you are right. She was really tiptoeing that line with Waverly.
And it was interesting because one of my favorite parts about Nicole's entrance is she is not like the predatory lesbian, but she is still able to be somebody who's like, I know what I want, kind of not really like, she's able to like kind of be a little flirty and kind of still be like not weird or creepy or predatory or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see that little bit of Nicole missing, because it seemed a weird character trait to be missing from a character who was like that before she knew Wynonna.
I kind of chalk it up to the rings on both their fingers. Like the stakes are a little different in this reality, right? Like she even makes a comment, Nicole makes a comment about the ring on her own finger, like, what's that doing there? And, Waverly is also walking around with a ring, and everybody knows that she's engaged. So I think that probably, shifted that dynamic considerably.
Yeah, but I don't know. It was another kind of thing that felt like weird to me. But I did not like that Nedley was dead, and we've glossed over that a couple of times. Nedley and Gus, man, like that was really upsetting.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a nice touch that Nicole was sheriff, but was not in Nedley's office.
Yeah, and then she had that photo of him and everything.
Yeah, so she was still mourning him.
Yeah.
And still, respecting that, it was still, his office. But, yeah, I was not, especially after all the Nedley we got last episode and how much, you really appreciated him last episode, and then to have him be like, oh, yeah, Doc killed Nedley, be like, what?
Yeah, they totally did that shit on purpose. They did.
Yeah, they did. It was terrible. It was very upsetting. But I do, Gus died with Curtis. I don't know. Did you pause and read the obituary?
No, I did not. I was going through that watch as fast as I could and making as many notes as I could.
I'll send you the photo. I took a
All
screenshot. Right. And I promise it's going to be actually a screenshot of the obit. But yeah, the obit, it looks like the Revenants still attacked Curtis, and Gus was with. That's kind of the impression that I got. They died under quote unquote suspicious circumstances.
Okay.
So I mean, I guess they were together, but I'm still I'm distressed. I hope we see Gus in the finale. I know we have a lot to cover, but I miss her. I want to know where she's off to.
I know she kind of has her, I know she has her problems with Wynonna too, but she seems like somebody who would show up. I would think that she would show up with Wynonna in labor, but I don't. Yeah. We'll see. I want to know how you felt about the Waverly "I love you." Waverly finally said it. I know that was bugging you, and you finally got it. So, what did you want more from that moment, or how'd you feel about that?
You want to know what my note says here?
Yes.
Waverly finally told Nicole she loves her, and in parentheses I have, Greta tells them they will remember remembering, so that means it counts, right? So that kind of sums up my feelings about Waverly telling Nicole that she loves her when that glamour is lifted. Because, Greta's oh, you'll remember remembering, but it was still in a weird context, and I think it's important that she finally said, I love you to Nicole. I just need to hear it again, I think. Not because I'm greedy, I want a different circumstance.
No, I'm with you, and I'm leaning the exact same way, because they were, the camera was kind of panning around them weird, so they kind of looked like they were spinning. I don't believe that Waverly was even looking at Nicole when she said it, so I would also like to see it again in a different context where it's just the two of them and Waverly can really say it to her face and mean it, because I think Nicole needs to hear more of it. That being said, Waverly has been through a lot. She's lived through a lot of loss. We've talked about the abandonment. And, all of those things make people, very weird about, not weird, God, I'm sorry. I don't mean weird. I'm actually identifying.
Hesitant.
I'm actually identifying with this, you guys. So please don't think I'm calling you weird. I'm calling myself weird. But it makes it difficult to make yourself vulnerable. It makes it difficult. And caring about other people is about as vulnerable as you can get. So it makes sense to me that she would be so guarded and careful about throwing those words around, because people leave her a lot.
Yeah. And that's kind of I've never really had I've been remarking on it, I don't know, but the fact that it makes sense why Waverly's waited. And it's just, I appreciate, because so often, both in media and in reality, in an actual setting with somebody that you care about, there's almost an obligation when somebody says I love you to say I love you too.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I've been guilty of doing it when maybe it wasn't how I felt, but it was what you're supposed to say.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that they didn't do that. I'm not mad about it. I'd like to hear it again under a different circumstance, because it definitely, Waverly has every right to be hesitant.
Yeah.
And to not want to be vulnerable.
Yep.
So I definitely.
Yeah. I kind of fall on the other side of this. Like, I think, I mean, I've probably said it and not meant it. That's not really what sticks out to me, though. What sticks out to me more is, like, someone saying it and I'm not ready to say it. And then there being like this weirdness and this pressure to say it. And I just need to, like, I've got to, like, make peace with it. You know what I mean? And, like, sit with it for a while and, kind of assess, my feelings on it and sort of get over the initial anxiety, and then I'll say it back. So I really connect with Waverly in this respect, and her hesitancy.
And I mean, I've totally, like, again, Catherine gets extra personal for no reason, but, I have totally done that where I have actually ended things with somebody, and it wasn't even like, I don't even consider them like somebody I dated seriously, but it's like, I could tell they had stronger feelings, and I was like, nope, because I don't feel the same, and I just kind of was like, nope, not gonna wait this out. So I mean, it's a lot, and the fact that Waverly isn't trying to run or anything, the fact that she didn't get sent into a panic. I mean, we heard her tell Wynonna, I love her, in the season 1 finale, but I think that was a completely different circumstance. So like I said, I just need the circumstances to be a little bit different.
It was also, I love her, not I love you. And again, She was looking at Wynonna when she was saying it. She was like pleading with Wynonna. And in this episode, again, she's not looking at Nicole when she says it. So I'm taking this way too far, but yeah, I want a different moment where they are looking at each other and saying those words.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I totally agree. And I think a lot of the fandom would agree as well. I'd like to think a lot of the fandom would agree as well. Because she can't seem to handle it. Which sounds so weird, but, when Nicole was, Nicole hasn't had great I love yous either with the, I kept this from you because I love you. I'm dying, so I'm going to tell you that I love you. So I just need a different, I need the I want it to happen when the things aren't so dire.
Yeah.
Because I think the grand declaration is always appreciated, but I think it's also just as important in just an everyday moment or just looking at somebody and saying it. So I kind of want something like that.
Same.
Where it's just things lighten up and she just kind of has a chance to look at her. They have a chance to look at each other and be like, I really love you. Because it's very easy to, when things are dire, for everything to kind of feel heavy.
Or urgent, yeah.
Yeah. So I know you knew I had feelings on that, and I figured you did too. Because it was it was one of those kind of sandwiched in. Speaking of that lifting the glamour moment, I do love how they remembered Wynonna. I really loved that scene. When they're talking.
Yeah, trying to describe her.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
The, warm and funny, insanely protective, and then hair like a mare with a Hollywood stylist. It was so great. And I love that Nicole kind of pulled out the insanely protective, because what else do you say about, the sister of the woman you love? That's probably the first thing that's going to come to mind when they've got that relationship that they do have.
I absolutely loved that moment in the car where Nicole had just come to pick Waverly up, Doc had been gone. And you do that for me. I do a lot of things to you. For me. Yeah. I thought that was so funny. I think that is that's awful. That is the only part of the episode that I made time to rewind and rewatch not like, because I got it on the first run through. I didn't need to like
Yeah.
make sure that I got the quote right or anything. Like I had it. That was the only one that I like had to rewatch a couple of times just for sheer joy.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty good, and it was just kind of a delightful mix of like secondhand embarrassment as well,
Yeah.
where it wasn't enough to make you like never want to hear it again or watch that again.
Right.
It was also kind of like you kind of just wanted, you were shaking your head and going, Nicole Hott, you useless lesbian.
Especially because, you know, Waverly kind of follows her lead. I mean, she corrects her, but she doesn't make it weird. And then after that, you know, she tells her that, you know, she smells like vanilla dipped donuts. And like, you know, it's not awkward because she responds to it.
Yeah. I mean, I have mixed feelings about the vanilla dipped donuts line. Mostly because that line is gonna be a plague on fan fiction.
Oh, that's a really
Like,
good point.
that was my first thought because I read a lot of Once Upon a Time fan fiction, a lot of Swan Queen, and it's like people took Regina's love for apples way too far, and I have a feeling people are going to take this vanilla dipped donuts thing way too far.
Oh God.
She just smells like them, people. Let it go.
Yeah. Well, oh, you know, but let the fanfic writers do what they will. You know, God bless them. They work so hard and for free, and just for the glory and the kudos and the comments. Fanfic writers, I love you, and you're probably gonna take it too far, but that's okay. That's all right.
I love fic. I love writing it. I love reading it, but it's just there's some things that I'm like, ugh. So I have a feeling. And again, one of these times I'm gonna like not say something that's gonna leave me going, well, I just lost us a viewer. Or listener, why do I do that? Listener. Podcast. People listen to it. You don't want to view it.
No.
I talk with my hands a lot. Nobody needs to see that. So yeah, there were a lot of pretty good way hot moments. I mean, I like that it was sweet, and Bobo telling Waverly to keep Nicole made me laugh too.
Yeah, I liked that one a lot.
And I like how they kind of still like, I don't know. There was a thing though. I mean, I liked the kissing before they exploded, and it was all nice, but I'm going to be the person to point that out. I mean, that's still technically kind of cheating on both of their ends. I mean, Waverly's still engaged, and Nicole is still married in this AU.
Yeah, I ship it so hard though.
I know. Like I said, I'm going to be that jerk. I also, when it ends and everything's back to normal, when Nicole starts to apologize and Waverly kind of cuts her off with a kiss. I don't know how I feel about that one either.
I think that goes back to what we were saying earlier, and you and I, we agree on that point. I think there really needs to be a serious conversation about secret wife and, you know,
Yeah.
the kiss and all that stuff. Like, so on the one hand, like in the moment, like I enjoyed it for what it was, like for just a sweet moment between the two of them. They cheated death, and like, this is what matters. We're together. We're alive. This is what matters. But I still think that I still think that there's a lot to work out and a lot to work through. I would love for that to happen on camera. I don't know that it will at this point, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think it kind of made me squicky knowing, like, I get it because they've been fighting, and this was the first time that they've actually been themselves, and Waverly's like, hey, I want to tell you that everything's okay. I just get a little squicky when you have characters who, like, cut the other person off when they're in the middle of like, when it could be, like, a legitimate thing. So I get squicky about kind of the cut them off with a kiss thing. So that's why I kind of had mixed feelings. Like, I get it in context, and, like, I'm sure it'll be okay. It was just kind of one of those times. It's the downside to rewatching as many times as I did. I started and having as much time to process as I have. It was kind of one of those things where I was like, you know?
Yeah, if I'd had more time to watch the episode multiple times, I may have come down on your side more in that regard. like I said, I was a little caught up in the moment because it was the only watch that I had time for. I literally got back home last night at like 11 p.m. and, got everything unpacked, sat down, pulled up all of my systems and, started watching the episode on Amazon like right away. So, I didn't have as much time to ruminate on all of this.
Yeah, sorry.
All good? No.
So, yeah, I kind of, as per usual, I have a lot of feelings about Way Hot, both together and separately. I'm trying to look over. Oh, there was something that immediately, the second it happened, I was like, Lara's gonna love that. And it was when Widow Beth first tries to break the seal and it doesn't work, and she realized, of course it takes two, boo.
You got me. That is like one of the quotes that I have. I love Not Beth. I do.
I know you do.
That was one of my favorite quotes of the episode. Of course it takes two, boo. Another one of hers, like, when Jeremy shoots her and it bounces off that like force field or whatever, and she's like, that's adorable. I just get a kick out of the smiley villains who are having a good time, and Not Beth really delivered this episode.
Yeah, so the second that with that line, I was like, Lara's gonna love that.
Good call, dude. Yeah.
Okay. So, get into quotes. I had a lot, as per usual, on my list. It was kind of weird. A lot of the good ones that I ended up with on my list came at the kind of back end of the episode. But, like Jeremy and his I can't die, I've only had sex 1.5 times.
Yep.
I had questions, but at the same time, I don't think I want to know.
Okay, wait. So there we disagree, because I have the exact same quote, but my note on it is, there's a story there, and I would listen to the entire thing.
Oh, Jeremy. I loved him in this episode.
I did.
I like how he adorably asked Doc out for coffee, and his reaction to Doc putting the hat on his head, and it was just too cute.
I liked what Doc, I actually had Doc's speech to him written down right before that. You're a vegetarian with ethics of steel who still reads Doctor Strange comics at night because he wants to be a hero. I was smiling so big for that line and for when Doc finally put his hat on Jeremy's head.
Yes.
I could feel like what it meant to him. And, of course Jeremy shot himself in the foot. He's Jeremy. But like for one second, it was really sweet while it lasted.
And I don't think I meant to ship it, like,
Ooh.
But I don't know. There was a moment there where I definitely like had to stop myself from yelling out, "Now kiss," when he was talking to him, just because of how it was shot and how close they were. And I don't know. It was just a moment there, and I was like, "Damn it, brain."
You're not alone. You're not alone, girl. Don't worry about it.
I would hope not. But yeah, his Doc had some really, really wonderful moments. Like, I loved his quip about the well, too. Like, for God's sake, somebody put a lid on that thing.
I did, too.
But some of them were really, like, when he was telling Dolls, like, this is not who you are. You're a good man with semi-reptilian tendencies, but a good man. And the most important Doc line, I think, he called Waverly baby girl right before he died. Like, as he died.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it can't have been for any other reason than him wanting to try to see if she could remember Wynonna, and it just gave me all of the feelings.
I had all of the feelings. I mean, the baby girl line did give me feelings, but before that, when he's like about to die and he just has to tell her how beautiful she looks in her dress, that really got me.
I really adore Doc.
I do too.
I love all of the characters, but it's just, this episode really kind of let him shine a little bit. Kind of like how The Wish let Cordelia, back to Buffy. I'm sorry, I thought we were done. But apparently I wasn't. Kind of like how The Wish kind of let Cordelia shine in a different way. This kind of let Doc really kind of shine a little bit.
I agree. And I know that you're not a fan of the show, but I loved the Game of Thrones shout out. Can a Dothraki outride any night in Westeros, for all my fellow Game of Thrones fans?
Yeah, my sister who watches Game of Thrones yelled out, "Yes!" next to me. And I was like, okay, That I actually knew. I know enough about the show to know that. Nicole had some good lines too. Do you think this world is under a spell? What, like Narnia or Mar-a-Lago?
Yeah, yeah.
And what's the slam poetry night? Jeremy's I'm barely a single agent.
I liked that. I liked Rosita's need more poster. This one's out of face.
Yes, that was great too. Let's see, and then there were the more emotional lines like not necessarily the funny ones, but that the exchange that Waverly and Nicole had about the marriage and when she asks him, "I'm not a fool to marry him," and Nicole tells her, "As long as you believe it in your heart." And she makes a comment about the cliff, and Nicole's, "Well, if it's right, you don't think about the cliff because you're sure when you reach the end you'll fly." I really liked that.
Yeah.
The obnoxiously hopeless romantic in me really enjoyed a lot of the Way Hot stuff. So
my favorite for Way Hot, I mean, other than the funny one that I called out earlier, you do that.
That was so great.
I did love that, but as far as like the sweet moments go, I really loved Where You Go, I Go. Which I immediately thought about fried green tomatoes when I watched that Iggy and Ruth. And it was cool because Dana Piccoli also called that out on her Twitter, saying that line parallels fried green tomatoes, which quotes the book of Ruth, whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou lodgest, I will lodge, thy people shall be my people. It's one of the most romantic and overt parts of the movie Fried Green Tomatoes, and anytime anybody wants to borrow from that particular verse, I'm a fan.
Does it make me? I haven't seen Fried Green Tomatoes.
Okay, now we're in a fuzz.
Sorry.
Just take my advice, okay? When you have when you've got 2 hours and you're like, what should I watch? Just put it on. And then thank me later. And if you need to talk about your feelings afterwards, DM me.
Okay, I will do that. Maybe I will do it. Gosh, whenever I have the time. I'll probably do it as procrastination for my exam. Let's see, what other quotes? Like I said, there were a lot. Like, a lot of the Way Hot lines, like I said, have you ever met someone and instantly known in your heart they meant something to you? And, oh God, you're so cool, hot. Like, Waverly.
Girl, control yourself.
Yeah, I mean, talk about Nicole not having, kind of any chill, but
yeah. Oh,
Waverly didn't have much.
She didn't. And sidebar, you just reminded me, one more thing. I really liked when they were, running through the holiday house camp, the homestead, to get to the barn. Mm-hmm. Because, we all think that Nicole's new uniform looks good on her, and it does. And it took us long enough to talk about that on this podcast, but it looks great. But what I really liked was seeing her move in it, because it's a really functional outfit. It seems like her movements looked freer, and so I was like, oh, good job, costume department. Yeah, it seems really functional, and I liked that.
Yes, functional is good. It's kind of away from a police uniform in some ways, but it doesn't look bad, and she doesn't seem much like she seemed to object to top two buttons. She does not seem to like to zip up the shirt, so I'm not mad about
it. I'm not.
Wynonna had two good lines, and she was in it for 2 minutes.
That's our girl.
The something's different for when I got grass in my thong. And then the third seal, they broke it. Now we're all going to buy it.
Yeah.
It was on my list.
I also liked her, poking her stomach and, with the baby. I really liked it.
She's like, where'd you go? Did you go too?
Hey, little buddy, we all right? That was funny.
Yeah, I like that. I as much as I'm kind of funny about the Wynonna pregnancy storyline, I am gonna miss her interactions with the baby bump.
Yeah, the physical comedy is on point with the baby bump. They're really delivering the lulls with that one. I'm gonna miss it a little bit too. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, definitely. It's so delightful. I didn't have a lot more. I had a few dolls lines, but it was mostly just just when he was dying, how he seemed to remember everything. With I think he was my friend.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that was a kick in the feels.
Yeah, it really was. Now, and I'll be happy to see everybody back to normal for the finale. Before we wrap up, did you have any big items or small items? What do you kind of want to see in the finale?
Oh, well, at this point, I'm kind of, I was really excited about Clutie, and I thought, we would get this big epic showdown and what have you.
Yeah.
Now I don't really know what to expect because, yeah, because Wynonna's going into labor, so, and that's not fast. So, now I'm kind of wondering if it'll be like it's sort of like a Fallout kind of a situation, where like, how can I put this? Where like the world is ending and everything is sort of collapsing around them. And then there's this new life and this new baby and they're kind of, and that's how I anticipate it going. I could be wrong though. And she could like, pop that kid out and then, I don't know if my snap just picked up, but
it did.
she just drops the baby and picks up Peacemaker and goes and shoots Clutie and whatever. But I don't see that happening. So in light of the fact that she's now in labor, I kind of hope that they juxtapose these two things, with like, with like the world in turmoil and this new demon up and walking around and everything, and Wynonna and her family focused on like this new life. And maybe one of her group will kind of go after Clutie, at least in a reconnaissance kind of way. What are you thinking?
I mean, my finale wish list is kind of to get some stuff wrapped up that's been hanging.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the showdown. I want everybody to survive. I know we have to end with Wynonna having the baby. I say that, and it's like I get nervous that we're not going to, or something's going to happen. I really wanted closure on Waverly's parentage. And I still want closure on that, or at least not necessarily closure as far as, well, that's not a thing anymore, but at least an answer. An answer is better.
I did too.
And I don't know that we're going to get that anymore.
Neither do I.
But I could be wrong. I have no idea.
And, again, Bobo is back now. Bobo is in it, and I do believe Bobo has the answer. So, possible.
Mm-hmm. And maybe because of his, like I said, that responsibility to Waverly or duty or however you want to say it, maybe he'll feel he owes her that answer.
Maybe.
Or maybe he'll do it as another cut, to kind of wound her when she's vulnerable.
Or another bargain. He really does not want to go back to hell.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it, but there's a lot. It feels like there's so much up in the air and so many directions and so many people that can come into play. Like, we've got this plate that could be something good. I mean, with the seal destroyed and the ring destroyed, Doc's in kind of a not great position.
Yeah.
And we've got the Order just kind of sitting there. I mean, they've been all like, we're going to sit this one out, but I don't think they will. I think they're going to come in because their duty is to protect Purgatory. And now there's something big and ugly that's attacking Purgatory.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine the Order's going to stay out. So I don't know. It's not very far away and I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So unless there's anything else that we forgot to mention.
No, that sums it up for me.
Excellent. All right, everybody, we're going to wrap it up. So let us know your theories. Based on when this will go out, we'll hopefully go up. We'll have just a couple of days until the finale. So let us know your theories, what you're looking forward to, what you enjoyed about this episode, some of your theories about what happened in this episode, your feelings, all that good stuff. Let us know. As like I say it every week, but we love to hear it. We love to have these conversations. Mostly because a lot of Lara and I don't talk about this stuff beforehand, so a lot of times it leaves us with a lot to think about, or at least I know it does me.
Same here, yeah.
So please hit us up. And you can find me on Twitter at cmeushaw. That's CMEUSHAW. My recap for this episode is already up, so you can check it out in the link to the on the post for the podcast, or I've tweeted out the link and I'll retweet it at the Make Your Peace Twitter. You can also check out 4YE at 4 _Y_E on Twitter, and the website is 4ye.co.uk, where you can find all of our pieces, both Wynonna Earp and Knots. So, Laura, where can they find you?
You guys can find my work on 4YE, like Catherine just said. You can find me on Twitter at rsmayfair, and on Fridays I live tweet from the 4YE Make Your Peace podcast account. That is at 4ye_MYP podcast.
All right, everyone. We will see you next time for the finale.